Hello, my dear.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, good. Sorry, I just didn't connect the camera. Just one sec. How's it going?
Oh, it's good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Fabulous. Great. Let me just put on the camera. Sorry. Great.
That's great.
Here we are. Yay! Hey, my dear. Looking fabulous. Rachael Green from France.
I know that was funny.
But it's true. You have the same name. That's so awesome. I'm sure you got a lot of that before, right? So did you connect with this guy, or was it not something that interested you in the end?
David,
Mm.
is that what his name was?
Yeah, David Goldman. He's doing virtual events. I thought it might be useful for you to connect because he's doing like parties, and they're like doing like a Halloween party, Christmas party. So I thought maybe
Yeah,
it
that's
would be
perfect.
useful for you to cooperate because I guess you'll have the same type of clients, right? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, how's your morning?
Well, it's actually not morning, it's afternoon for me already.
Oh
3
yeah.
p.m.
Oh, great. How was your day?
Was more or less productive, did some stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit running behind with the planning of the events I talked to you about previously. It's just because with the kids, having small little kids it's just a nightmare sometimes, honestly, because it takes so much time. And because they just started kindergarten, and with all the COVID stuff, there's so many restrictions. It's such a headache for the parents. And each time they say, okay, now, we have a suspicious case. Now take your kids home, and they have to stay home until we have it confirmed whether it's COVID or not. And it's, this whole uncertainty, it's such a pain, honestly. So, so things are a little.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Same problems.
Yeah.
It's crazy here too.
Yes, so I don't have like things are a little bit uncertain for me because sometimes I just have to take kids home, and I've planned a whole day of work, and then all of a sudden they're home. So like, I'm okay, great. I have to hang out with them. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So anyways, that's how it is. So cool, my dear. So what I was thinking, shall we stream it into a Facebook group? Because I've told people they're there. It's just everybody's a little bit on a different time zone. So some people will pop in live, some people will do the replays. They actually do quite a lot of watching of the replays. Cool.
Virtual events lounge.
That's the one. Yeah. Let me.
Okay, preparing to stream preview.
Okay, just one sec. Cool. So how much time do you have?
I don't know. How much time were you thinking?
Maybe about 40 minutes. I don't want to take up too much of your time. And I figure that people usually watch things that are like between 45 minutes, because then, they feel like, okay, I can manage it. I can manage the time. What do you think?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. So I was thinking maybe talking a little bit about, like your whole pitching stuff, because I see you do that a lot in your group, like how to pitch your offer and all of that. I think that'll be really helpful to maybe get some tips. Maybe I'll ask you. Tell me what you're prepared to share.
Yeah, I mean, so I started another group that's based around pitching and doing live events. So I still have my virtual event planner group.
So it's different to the ones. So it's different. Sorry, I'm just gonna make it nicer. So it's different to the one that you already have, right? So you have two groups now. So tell me, how does it look?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because it's like I've kind of switched a little bit, and a lot of the virtual event planning I do now is more like content, like on other people's, and finding and connecting with other people. But I still have a very small group that I'm growing, but just not actively. So I don't know.
Yeah, it is. I do find it is a bit harder now to grow the groups because like everybody seems to have a group and everybody's busy with their own group. So
Yeah.
it is about like finding the right focus. So okay, so you have two groups, the one that you've always had, the one that I'm part of, and the new one.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I'll put it into show notes.
So they both are gonna have like kind of similar things, and I still put content on both of them, but so one of them is focused on like
Mm-hmm.
virtual event planning, connecting, and more about like they're both driven to um, improve confidence in
Okay.
delivery.
That's
So with
nice.
virtual event planning, like it's more like the virtual events collective, it's more about the way that you present yourself on virtual events and about like less about the troubleshooting virtual events, although there is some, but ultimately like identifying for people that are just beginning, not
Yeah.
people that are in this industry. Yeah. But yeah. So
Cool.
what what would you like to call it? Any little description?
So let's call it well, it's a expert interview with yourself, and um, and to see how to make the virtual, so basically the insights that you can give in terms of making the virtual event more interesting, right? The whole issue of Zoom fatigue, because I keep hearing that term so many times. I feel a bit sad for Zoom because I mean Zoom has nothing to do with that. It's just how we run the virtual events.
Oh, they're not crying about all these, believe me.
Some extra publicity doesn't hurt, does it?
Yeah. Yeah, here, I'm just gonna grab the water real quick.
Sure.
And then that should be enough for right now.
Yeah, should be cool. Nice.
Okay.
So how's it going overall, like with clients and stuff? You busy?
It's going good. It's the way that
Mm-hmm.
I'm positioning things is more a strategic partnership because I like more collaborating than I do um just going out there and hard selling.
Okay.
And then also because it's like what I do is like virtual entertainment, so it's like kind of interesting. Okay, do you want me to stream live or
Yeah, let's do that.
okay? I just didn't know if you wanted that on live or not. So I was asking more for that.
Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I'm so happy to present to you our lovely Rachael Green, this beautiful virtual events mixologist. Hi, Rachel. So great to have you here today. Well, the first question I'm going to ask you right away is
Me.
it's just because before I met you, I had no idea a virtual mixologist ever existed. So just let us know what is it that you do and how it is being virtual in your type of space.
Yeah, so yeah, my name is Rachael Green. I am a virtual mixologist. I have been in the world of mixology and events for 10 years and started doing in-person cocktail classes last year after I had been working with a liquor sponsor, liquor brands. And so I started doing in-person cocktail classes with like rows of people, and that was really fun. And so I moved here to North Carolina from California, where I was doing that there. And in North Carolina here, I was doing them in person until March. So I started recognizing that there was significant amount of loneliness that was happening in all the people that I was seeing on my social media, and it was really scary for a lot of people to switch their lives so abruptly. So what I started doing was live streaming cocktail presentations on teaching people how to make cocktails in their own homes so that
Mhm.
they could feel a little bit more creative and bright and confident about their abilities to do something really interesting. And so then I started to dive more into this because I was having such a great feedback from it. And So that's when I started doing everything that I'm doing now. So what virtual mixology entails is finding engaging ways to um, interact with the audience. So what I do is almost like virtual entertainment, but it's engaging. So it's not just like you come in and see a demonstration, it's funny, or it's, you know, it's interesting. It's actually something that people can prepare some things at home with and bring and engage with and taste things. And like, it's very encouraging to engage with the moment as opposed to just watching something. So that's what I've come to find is really successful for me, is to find when people are really looking for that engagement, and finding that engagement for their audiences.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you say that because engagement is such a big part of virtual events, right? We just don't want to be staring at the screen and getting bored with just another presentation. So maybe you can just tell us a few hacks of how do you actually make sure that your event is engaging? Like, what do you do about it?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So a lot of the things that we could do to create an engaging event is to make sure that we have a good flow. So whatever we have planned for the event, there's a good flow. When you're starting the event, you're starting right away. The attention span of people that are showing up for virtual events is significantly shorter, and you have to think you can't see the distractions that are going on in their house or in their world, like outside of these four screen walls, right? So in one room, when we're working at in-person events, you can control the room a lot easier. But what I've been able to find is you can control the room a lot easier in the virtual wall. In fact, it's a process that's significantly easier if you have the right tools. So a couple of tools that I can give real quick is to, when you have notes, like I'm actually not going off of notes today, I'm just engaging in conversation. But if you have like a little script that you like to go off of or keynotes, you can actually put them right under the webcam screen, on the screen right here, so that it can make it feel like you're engaging with your audience and you're doing a visual presentation, which is really helpful. I like to engage so much that I rarely have notes because I like to have things just, I just practice things so frequently. But you can do things like that. And when you're actually in this four wall space, being all the way back here is not going to have as much presence. You're not going to feel as connected or as involved. But when you're filling up this space, like with your face, with your hand, like you're right here, then they feel way more inclined to like lean in and listen. So you want to make sure that when you have people that are at your virtual summits and you're at your events, that when you're doing audio visual for these virtual events, you're making sure that you give them these pointers so that they're engaging with your audience and they're not screwing up with your flow. So those are some tips that I had, but it's really important to have ultimately a flow of things that's going to keep their attention, and there's no lulls in energy. You just keep it flowing. So make sure when you're building out your total virtual event that you're doing things like that, or you can hire someone that can manage that space for you.
Yeah, this is so great that you said it. I love it because these are really practical tools, and I'm all for having the flow and the engagement, because a lot of the times in an in-person event, you can improvise a little bit, right? But in a virtual space, you do not have the time and space to do that. So tell me, like when you have different clients, or different types of clients, how do you adjust to your clients? Like, do you have a way to figure out what the clients will want, what type of energy, what type of involvement they will seek from you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a couple of different people I enjoy working with. So I have people that are doing personal events. So that's people that are having personal parties like bachelorette parties, birthday parties, and they just want something. It's not marketed. It's just like a very private party. That's one particular way that I navigate how to. A lot of what I'm doing is not external, it's a lot more internal. So we work on developing trivia and some other things that are really engaging for the group. And I act as almost like an MC for that like party. And then there's like more corporate events where I can like either plug in to the event, or I help with a certain call to action, specifically with one partner. And we can do like working on getting them the information so that the event is successful for their attendees, and then some follow-up stuff and recipes and things. So there's a little bit more moving pieces with like corporate events, and those can be anything from like team building events to client appreciation events to pitching. So anytime that there's like, I guess like could be like a summit, but there's like a call to action involved, and so that's something that I can do as far as bringing in a little bit of that call to action in my delivery. And then there's some really bigger events that I'm working with, I'm potentially emceeing a larger event with a few hundred attendees, and then I'm also potentially working with a sponsor. So there's a couple of different call to actions that I'm working on, making sure that the attendees have what they need and making sure the sponsor is negotiated well to the audience as well. So I navigate a lot of moving pieces for that. So depending on the type of event is the type of conversations that I have. It's really important to me that the audience and the event holder and the sponsors are all very happy. So just like in normal in-person events, you're navigating the same exact thing. And so for me, like these virtual events aren't very much different than in-person events. It's just a different delivery.
Yeah, and I love that you project so much confidence. I mean, I've seen you actually do some of those little cocktail parties as well, and it's amazing how great your flow is of information and how confident you come across. I think that's something really important. Is it an acquired skill, or you've already had that before?
I've really always been into public speaking. Since I was a kid, I was into getting on stage and singing and doing all sorts of interesting things. I've always had like a very like extroverted personality. But there are some things that I have seen with people that have been more introverted, and to utilize this space like on Facebook or in virtual events to come out. So even with attendees, right? So like you have this virtual space where people can like show their face and then like leave, right? So the virtual space is really interesting because it creates a platform that people, whether they're extroverted or introverted, can utilize to finally participate, which is really interesting. So there are some things that I would give to people that are a little bit more on the shy side, or like don't think that they have what it takes to like be present or to be big in this space. You're not trying to take up like a whole stage, you're just like right here. So like utilizing these four walls is really important. And then as far as confidence goes, like I have a coach that gave me this like little tidbit that I'm happy to share with you guys. So especially if you're using Facebook Live or you're doing live events, it's different when you have edited events or like pre-recorded so that you can like edit and take things out that you don't want. But when you're doing live events, it can be really daunting, right? So what I recommend is you can actually get your own like private Facebook group that is like really, the privacy settings are like only you, like no one can see it, like no one can find it, it's just you, right? And then you can like go on live on your own personal diary page, if you will, and practice going live for certain call to actions that you have or certain event strategies that you're working on, and you can practice there. It's kind of like a journal, but you're practicing timing and you're practicing doing these things. Some people like to do it with like the voice memos on their phone, but by doing things virtually, you're actually seeing yourself come live, which is exactly what you would be experiencing if you were going live. You're not seeing a bunch of other faces. You're really pretty much only seeing your own. So learning how to like look past that and to look like clear to the camera, and talk to like who you are talking to, and making sure that that is like the utmost importance. And by doing this in repetition, you don't get distracted by yourself as much.
Oh, I love that you say that, because practice makes perfect. And for me, one of the issues that I had to overcome when I just entered the online space was actually seeing myself live and hearing myself live, right? So I would record it, but then I would refuse to watch it just because you'd feel like, oh my gosh, I just don't want to watch myself, right? Is that something that you see with a lot of the students that you tutor as well?
Um, yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of people just, yeah, they feel a little ick by it. I mean, that like brings up some things about like narcissism and just like wanting to listen to yourself. It's like, do I want to listen to myself? You know, like that like gets kind of icky. But if you look at it from a like a very like think about it if you're looking at someone else's performance and how you can dissect it objectively without emotion. And that's the goal. That takes time. You know, it's not easy to sit there and look at yourself and be like, that's what needs to change. That's what needs to change. Those are things that happen over time. But if you're consciously trying to look for them, that will happen and start happening faster for you or for anyone who's listening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's great. That's a fabulous tip. Thank you so much for saying that. And you've mentioned a few times the call to action. So I want to take you up on that, because I know you do it a lot in your group. You help people actually practice their pitch. So can you let us know a little bit about, I mean, I don't want you to spill all your beans, but just like a few little, maybe secrets, only a few little tactics that you would advise people to do when it comes to actually preparing your pitch. Because when it comes to webinars and even summits, I mean, you do still want to sell, you want to make a profit, right? So how do you insert it that it doesn't sound salesy, but still you have your point across?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to pitching, like it comes to really listening, right? So like when you're with a certain audience, um, you pitch a certain way. You don't pitch the same way to different people. So if I know someone's doing a personal event versus a corporate event versus a sponsor, like I'm not having the same conversation. So by having these different conversations, it's really important. So what we do in like what I was doing in like the practice your pitch Tuesday, I had like an ongoing stream of events that you could come on to my virtual event planner group. It's like expansive event planners collective, and it's people that are starting out in the virtual events world, especially in the Facebook community, that are just harnessing and utilizing lives and things to really get their message across clearer, because you can do so with live so much clearer than you can do so with text or with gifs or with whatever. I mean, those things work really well. So realistically, the more opportunities you have to pitch, the better. But really it comes down to listening. When you're pitching to someone on a call, you're listening, and then you're responding with an answer that is potentially moving in a direction to where they come to the realization that you are what they want, right? Or they weed themselves out. So when we're figuring out the audience specifically around who we are focusing our pitch around, then that's where the magic really starts to happen. And it's more about this conversation and storytelling and like, is this you? Like, are you you are the one for me? And like kind of spelling this person out. Sorry, that was a bug. I wasn't like praying. That was really funny though. Yeah, so it's like ultimately spelling out this story through this pitch situation. And then someone will ultimately be like, I would love to learn more. Like that's what you want people to say is, yes, that's me. Yes, that's what I'm going through. Yes, that's the answer. I want to learn more. Or yes, I think that's the answer. I want to learn more. So it's not so much about here's what I offer and here's why it's cheaper and here's why it's it's like nobody cares about that. They care about the way it makes them feel. And ultimately it comes down to bringing those emotions out in someone, because they don't make a decision on something that's going to make their life better based off of a price tag. They do it based off of the way that it's going to make them feel better. And that is the value in itself. That's why there's so many of these, coaching programs, and there's so many of these opportunities here on Facebook, and a lot of people are utilizing it, is because they are able to talk to real people, like when they're really in this process. And Facebook is much more vulnerable than like LinkedIn or other social platforms. So that's why I feel like there's so much success here, because people are really connecting truly.
Yeah, I love that you're saying that, because you really hone on the pain points and you really transmit that you understand the emotions of the people, right? And having an engaged event like a mixology event, right? It really makes it more relaxed, and people don't always think about, oh, I have to learn this or I have to sell this, right? It just creates a certain atmosphere that makes people more receptive of the message that you have to transmit.
Yeah. So kind of like what I'm going to be doing in the new group. So I have a virtual event collective. So it's a place for people that are in the virtual event space to ask questions, people that are starting the virtual event space to ask them questions. And then kind of like almost like a mentorship thing. That's kind of what my goal was. And then the new group that I'm working on, which is for female entrepreneurs, is going to be a space where we can have like virtual cocktail hours, and people can come on and talk about what they do and who they help, how they serve, and it be that much more organic than, here is my offer. Like some things that are like said that they think they should say is actually really offensive, like because people are thinking like, oh yeah, I'm buying something, like the less you like get them into that head frame of like money, like the more that you have someone that's truly authentically wanting what you have, and then you don't have to like cut your costs and charge less, and devalue yourself, because you don't have to. You just have to connect better.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that you're saying that you really have to connect and not just trying to sell things just to cut costs and find like little shortcuts just to make sure that people just buy it, right? You feel confident in yourself, you feel confident that what you offer is great. And you basically, what you do is you connect with the right people, and you're transmitting the information in a way that really makes it attractive to them. I think that's a really, really great point that you're making. So tell me, I don't want to.
It's about upping your value, not lowering your costs. Or
Yeah,
lowering,
yeah.
like lowering. Don't lower your value, up your value. It's like if my value is not matching my price point, then what can I do to showcase what I do is worth that, and so you up your value so that when that time comes about the actual monetization, the people are like, oh yeah, take my money. And you're like, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, and practicing is a big part of it, right? Because I've even heard big influencers say that they practice their pitches, right? They don't just say it, and it comes spontaneously. It's a story, it's an opinion that they've been repeating again and again and again. And having an audience to practice it too, like they would have in your group, is great, because you get feedback and you get an audience to present to. So it's not just you alone in front of the camera, which is stage one. But stage two is actually practice it in a safe environment. And then stage three would be to go out and, and get all those clients and get all those great offers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also hear you say a lot about the difference between needs and wants of the clients. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What's your insights on this one? I'm really curious.
Yeah, I think that when we talk about needs versus wants, right? So what someone needs, they need a bookkeeper, they need a software, they need a website, they need a this. What they want is to feel successful. What they want is to feel supported. And even if you are making their website, even if you are, they just want to feel supported. At the end of the day, like, you have what they need, but what you're selling is what they want. So it's what they're committing to is the belief that you have what they want, which is support, um, which is like comfort in that process of purchasing. Because they could go to anyone else that they need things from, but the reality is we don't act on the things that we need until we want them, right? Like, think about,
Yeah.
like, I almost feel like, like, we need to shower every day, but we don't shower until we want to, like,
Yeah.
that's like a really funny thing. I was like, that's the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, you don't have to say it. But yeah, like, we don't need, we need a lot of things to get to certain places. It's like, we need things to get to, like, it's the shortcuts that we need to get to where we want. But like, when someone's selling us something, they're not selling us what we need because we're like, yeah, I know I need it, but like, why should I care?
Mm.
So it comes down to, what do they actually want, and highlighting those things. And you kind of have to dig deep into their persona of, like, what do they truly want? Do they really want money? Like, at the end of the day, like, for me, like, with virtual event planners and strategic partners, like, they don't want, like, they don't necessarily want engagement. They want their clients, that they want to get their clients that engagement, but at the end of the day, they want more money. So what can I do to give them an opportunity to make more money with my services? And that's how I strategically partner with virtual event planners for their clients. So
Yeah.
it's like, if I position it that way, then I have a lot more traction. So, and like, yeah, I mean, it's just figuring out what it is that people truly want, as
Yeah.
opposed to need. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it really comes down to really knowing your client avatar. That's what you were saying. And it's not something that might come immediately, right? It's just something that comes in the process. And you're always searching, and things change, right? Like now with the pandemic, things have changed. So your approach to events has changed. I mean, you've also pivoted yourself. So you always seek new solutions, new understandings, and you do get to know your client better each time you dig deep into it. So I really, really like that you make that distinction, because a lot of times we just merge the two concepts, and it's great that you keep them separate and really tell us what you feel about it. So I just have a quick last question, because I know, I don't want to keep you too much. I really, really appreciate that you stepped into group and shared your expertise. I think it's really interesting because, especially from the events perspective, I find that we're really stepping out of the usual event concept where you could just get away with having a presentation or just, a talking head. Really now the virtual events experience is changing with so many virtual events. We have to make sure we spice it up. We bring in new aspects into it. And I think your niche, your approach is so unique and so amazing. It really shows how you can leverage the virtual space and how much you can do with it, because it's not just about mixology, right? What you say, it's so much more to it than may seem on the surface. So maybe you have some fun stories to share. Like, have you had ever a client, it was so difficult, like you're on Facebook and you have all these faces and it's just blank, you do your stuff and it's great, but just the engagement is not there. Have you ever experienced that in your case?
Yeah. So I did an event. It was for, it was a Zoom thing. I usually use Zoom, although I'm exploring other platforms. And it was, it was over 100 people, and it was a mixology and networking event that we did. And a lot of people that were there for like the networking, and a lot of people were there for like interested in the mixology. But, you see like a wall of like 25 people, and they're all just like, just like staring at you. I'm like, do you guys have anything you need to shake some cocktails? And they're like, no. And I was like, okay, what can I do? So I started doing trivia, and I started doing like other forms of engagement, had people answer in the chat, like different things that I was asking, or like people that were joining along with the presentation. I was asking them, like, oh, taste the lime juice. And like some people, I would see like their face, and I would have to scroll through because it was like 4 pages of people. I was like scrolling through and see people like, and like try like, so I was trying to engage a few different types of people. One, someone that was just there for networking. Two, someone who was there, but like maybe didn't have the things that they needed to be prepared. And then 3 of the people that were actually there and engaging, because 30% there was, I had the event sponsored, and it was a 30% conversion rate for the RSVPs that showed up. So it was pretty awesome, because I still had people engaged with the process. But ultimately, what it comes down to is, what did I not do to get more people prepared? So from that, I learned, how do I get more people prepared for when there's action? And that comes into like, that leans into like sponsorship as well. So like when there's sponsorship, or like when I'm working with, potentially working with someone on pitching their event, or like we're doing a cocktail hour and they're going to be pitching their products in like one of my groups, then I'm like, okay, well, it's actually more of a campaign. So when you talk about touch points, um, if you give someone the recipes and like expect them to know what they're doing when they show up, like it's not that simple. So what I'm going to be and have been starting to do is to have more touch points on the recipes and what they should expect, and maybe even a video that's like, watch me before the class, and like some other things, so that they're super prepared, so that they get the most out of the experience. And the same thing goes for marketing with my sponsors as well. So how many touch points can I get to prior to the event, the call to action during the event, and the call to action after the event? So like, how are their deliverables on all ends? And so it's just really fun.
Wow. I mean, you know what, when it comes to event planning, I mean, you've been in hospitality for quite a while. It always involves thinking on your feet, right? I mean, you can be prepared 100%, but still you always need to have a little leeway for some creativity or for some unexpected things to happen. And just be prepared and be creative, and do the best. Just maybe one last thing. I mean, I really love that you share this example, but what do you do to bring these virtual mixology event more like this in-person touch? Like, what do you do in your class to make it more seem like it's in person?
Yeah. Wow. I don't know. I think that, to me, like, and I do this when I go live. I do this when I'm practicing in my own like story, or my own like little secret Facebook group that I do, is to really imagine that you're speaking to one person. Like, if you're imagining that you're speaking to one person, and we all get into, when we're talking about things that we're passionate about, even if there is a real person right in front of us, like we could have a monologue for 30 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. So imagine that you're speaking to that person that is doing what you expect them to be doing. And also, I mean, I'm gonna have to, like, people that are interested but they're not fully engaged, so I'm gonna be talking to maybe 2 people. But if you think about the one person that you're talking to and that you want to have a longer conversation with, not all of them, that one. If you're talking to that one person, then it's much more captivating than when you're talking to all of these people. You're like, okay, well, I'm talking to Sally, I'm talking to John, I'm talking to who? Like, your avatar is not 15 people. Your avatar is one person. And I don't know, I've never used that term avatar, but you used it, and I was like, yeah, I get that. So your avatar is this one person. So if you're imagining talking to this one person and how you would talk to them and the questions you'd want to ask them and all of these things, then they're gonna answer you. They're gonna answer you because you're speaking to them. So the point is to, like, with virtual events, is to like market it enough to like have enough of those people there, so that when you are talking to that person, they're all right there, I don't know. But it's about like just imagining that person is like right behind your camera, and you're just like, I am here for you, and they're like, yes, talk to me.
Oh, that's so amazing.
That's my avatar does. They're like,
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. This is absolutely awesome. I really love that you're pointing this out because I see it every time and again and again. And even, I mean, if it comes to virtual events or just specific events or bigger events, it always comes down to, do you have a person in mind, a persona in mind? And if you don't, it just all becomes really like wishy-washy and just you speak to nobody. But I'm really happy that you're saying that, because you have to have a specific person in mind. You speak to that person, and then all the other people will get involved anyway. So just don't be afraid to really niche down. Thank you so much for sharing that. This is really insightful.
Yeah, yeah.
So Rachel, it's been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for all your tips. I'm sure everybody who'll be watching this will be like, oh, I want to get in touch with Rachel. So let's let's just say, so you have two Facebook groups, right? Where you hang out at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'll drop them in the
So,
comments below. Yeah, tell me a bit more about them.
yeah, so I have the Expansive Event Planners Collective, which is a place where people invested in virtual events and also starting in virtual events can have these communications so that I almost like envision like a mentorship program. It's not like a program, it's just like a space where people are like, they get to practice what they're learning by kind of talking about it with other people that are asking questions about it. And it's just a very collaborative environment, and I'm a very collaborative person, so I wanted to create spaces that were based around collaboration more than like hierarchy, you know what I mean? So my other group is primarily like female entrepreneurs that are looking to find places to celebrate their empire. So it's like all like, it's called Cocktails and Connections, and it's for high performing entrepreneurs, and it's for a place for people that are um, female entrepreneurs to connect with other female entrepreneurs. And we have like happy hours, and we, you know, celebrate, and there's cocktails, and it's like, it's all very like fun and a lot less rigid. Because I even find in a lot of these female entrepreneur groups that they're very you can see their strategy, you know, it's like, it's very like, okay, it's Monday, here, drop your Instagram, okay, it's, you know, it's, and that's
Yeah.
cool, and that's great because you know what to expect. I just personally want something that is a little bit of a pattern interrupt, where it's we talk about our successes. There's a lot more inspiration driven, but it's a lot more focused on support and collaboration than it is about some other things. But maybe that's how all of these started, and they eventually grew to something else. But they're both new groups. They both started in the past month, and I would love for you to join me and come and check it out.
Fantastic. Well, I'll include both links in the comments below. And yeah, Rachel also hangs out in this group sometimes as well. So you can always reach out to her if you have any questions, or if you want to, you know, book Rachel for another amazing event. I think that's so much fun. I think it's really amazing how these new ways to liven up these events, to make them interesting, to spice them up, have come up. And I think what Rachel does is absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much for coming here. And yeah, and maybe we will definitely collaborate in another event as well.
Okay, yeah, that sounds fun.
Great. Thanks so much, Rachel. Thanks for coming. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Cool.
Okay.
So yeah, so great. Thanks so much. I'll tag a few people in. Usually I do these things a bit later, but you know, with the kids, it's gotten a bit difficult for me to do it on a later stage during the day. Listen, so Rachel, so I was thinking about these summits that I'm going to be planning, and really, you said that if you have more than how many people, the sponsors can step in so that you can do a virtual mixology session. How many people do you need?
I mean, it really depends. What were you thinking? Because I could probably realistically, let me learn more about like your event, your anticipated attendees, and some things like that, and then I've developed my like strategy around this a little bit more. So let me can you share with me again some of the
Sure.
details of the event and your anticipated attendees?
Okay, let's do that. And you say you're open to collaboration. So if you have like other people there as well, not only yourself, but I don't know, like a musician and stuff like that, would you be interested in doing that?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds awesome. Well, great. Thanks so much, Rachel. Thanks for stepping in, and we'll keep in touch. Can you drop me the link to the other group? I have your one group, but I don't have the other one.
I'm gonna invite you to it right now.
Okay, great, perfect. Then I'll have both of them, and I'll link them in the show notes. Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll see you in the groups.
Thanks you. Bye bye.